right, 25 minutes before 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Tuesday morning here at the Paddock Mall. It is 75 degrees. Looks like a nice day, and there is a 40% chance we'll see more rain today, more thunderstorms, and it's a pattern that we expect to continue for a while now. So, all right, this is the portion of the show where we read the news to you. We simply take the news from the different news agencies that we subscribe to here at The Source, and we take the stories that are making the headlines right now, and we shorten those stories. It gives you a chance to sit at your radio, with your radio, and catch up on as much news as we can possibly squeeze into the segment in a short period of time. We'll also tell you the news agencies so that you can go online and read the entire story for yourself if you so desire. The first one is from CNN. The sprawling offensive by militants in Iraq has now reached the country's largest oil refinery. But it's unclear who has control of the strategic target. This morning, the state-run Iraqi news agency said that security forces still control the Baiji oil refinery and that airstrikes killed 19 militants. Iraqi special forces killed the militant leader who led the attacks against the refinery and goes by the name of Abu Qatada, the agency said. But hours earlier, militant fighters believed to be from the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, also known as ISIS, seized the refinery, several Iraqi security sources told CNN. CNN cannot independently confirm either claim.
Since President Barack Obama took office on January 20th, 2009, the Environmental Protection Agency has issued 2,827 new final regulations, equaling 24,915 pages in the Federal Register, totaling approximately 24,915,000 words. The Gutenberg Bible is only 1,282 pages and 646,128 words. Thus, the new EPA regulations issued by the Obama administration contain 19 times as many pages as the Bible and 38 times as many words. The Obama EPA regulations have 22 times as many words as the entire Harry Potter series, which includes 7 books with 1,084,170 words. They have 5,484 times as many words as the U.S. Constitution, which has 4,543 words, including the signatures, and 17,088 times as many words as the Declaration of Independence, which has 1,458 words, including signatures, reported by CNS News.
And from ABC News, at least 2 people are dead and 8 others were injured in an early morning shooting in Miami. The shooting happened at around 2 a.m. today in an apartment building in Northwest 12th Avenue and 65th Street, according to Miami police. 1 man was pronounced dead at the scene, and another victim died at Jackson Memorial Hospital. At least 6 others were rushed to the hospital's trauma unit, their conditions unknown. The male victim who died at the hospital was 26 years old. At least one of the shooting victims was female. The motive for the shooting is unknown, and detectives are interviewing witnesses.
The Pentagon says the U.S. and Iraq have reached an agreement on legal protections for American commandos deploying into Iraq to assess and advise Iraqi forces. Rear Admiral John Kirby says Iraq outlined acceptable legal assurances for the short-term mission in a diplomatic note, ensuring that troops will not be subject to Iraq's judicial process, but to the U.S. military's code of justice. The legal protections are the same as those provided to U.S. employees and troops working at the embassy. 2 teams of special forces already in Iraq could begin their assessments later this week. 4 more teams will join them soon. Iraq refused to sign a legal protections agreement with the U.S. force in 2011, so the U.S. did not leave a residual force there when combat ended, reported by the Las Vegas Sun.
And this is from KTRK TV News in Houston, Texas. An 8-month-old child who was in her mother's car when it was stolen was found safe early this morning, snuggled in her car seat that was left among weeds along a road in Houston. The infant, named Genesis Haley, was in her mother's car at a Houston area gasoline station when the car was stolen. Police were able to locate the stolen vehicle, but the child was missing. An Amber Alert was issued immediately. Early this morning, Hong Yen was out for a jog, and she called 911 after saying she heard a crying baby in the bushes. I heard the baby crying, Young told ABC News. I looked around and didn't see anyone nearby. I found the baby lying in a car seat, she said. There were a few ants on the baby's hand and a few other insects, but otherwise the baby was okay. Police hurried to the scene and found Genesis in the bushes. She was taken to Texas Children's Hospital and is listed in good condition, according to the Houston Police Department. Public Information Officer Victor Sentes. Nguyen, who is from Vietnam and is visiting relatives in the U.S., said normally she doesn't go jogging and that today was the first day she decided to go for a run, and then found the baby. Wow.
Wow, it was gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
U.S. stocks fell with the Standard & Poor's 500 index dropping for the first time in 7 sessions as General Electric led industrial shares lower to offset gains among energy producers. General Electric fell 1.1% after clinching the $17 billion purchase of Alstom's energy assets, its biggest acquisition ever. FMC dropped 4.9% after cutting its 2014 profit forecast. Integris Energy Group jumped 12% after Wisconsin Energy agreed to pay $5.7 billion for the company. Microsystems rose 3.4% as Oracle offered to buy it for a $68 per share, reported by Bloomberg.
From the Associated Press, Oakland, California's red light district is known as The Track. It is a place where prostitutes line up block after block, many of them runaways. This weekend, The Track was just one of many targets in a nationwide crackdown on child prostitution. The FBI, along with 230 federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies, launched its 8th Operation Cross Country, arresting 281 alleged pimps and rescuing 168 child prostitutes in more than 100 cities from Tampa, Florida, to Denver, Colorado, to Los Angeles, California. Authorities said it was the largest number of pimps and children taken off the street for cross country. These are our kids, said FBI Director James Corney. Our street corners, our truck stops, our motels, our casinos. These are America's children. Our children are not for sale. Police say some of the young people were runaways and then forced into prostitution. Many were lured by boyfriends offering little more than promises of love and affection. One woman arrested during the operation said she was just 17 and a half when she got caught up in the business. The guy said, "Oh, I'll take you." Oh, she was referring to her boyfriend. Well, anyway, wow. 168 children rescued. That's the important part of that story.
NASA's Mars Curiosity rover is completing a Martian year, that is 687 Earth days, on June 24th, which is today. According to NASA officials, the Jeep-sized lander has already accomplished the mission's main goal of determining whether Mars once offered environmental conditions favorable for microbial life. One of Curiosity's first major findings after landing on the red planet in August of 2012 was an ancient reverb at its landing site. Nearby, at an area known as Yellowknife Bay, the mission met its main goal of determining whether the Martian Gale crater ever was habitable for simple life forms. The answer is a historic yes. It came from 2 mudstone slabs that the rover sampled with its drill. Analysis of these samples revealed the site was once a lake bed with mild water, the essential elemental ingredients for life, and a type of chemical energy source used by some microbes on Earth. If Mars had living organisms, this would have been a good home for them. Curiosity also studied natural radiation levels both during the flight to Mars and on the Martian surface, providing guidance for designing the protection needed for human missions to Mars. Curiosity is far from done with its work. It is currently carrying a complex rock sample, which may tell scientists more about the geological history of the red planet. Curiosity is also trudging toward its eventual destination of Mount Sharp. That is an area where scientists expect geological layering will yield answers about ancient environments. At Mount Sharp, the mission team will seek evidence not only of past habitability, but also of how environments evolved and what conditions favored preservation of clues to whether life existed there. While Curiosity has sustained some damage to its metal tires, engineers and scientists have adjusted both the speed and the course of the rover, and this makes it deal with the damage and still perform its work. Scientists say that after Curiosity's first Martian year, the mission continues to go strong. Reported by the Florida News Network.
And from the Miami Herald, the Davie Police Department in Davie, Florida, is investigating after a man somehow went through a wood chipper. Davie Police and Fire Rescue responded to the scene along the 5700 block of Pine Island Road yesterday shortly after 4:30 p.m. Police say someone driving by the neighborhood noticed the man being dragged into the industrial wood chipper. The man, who was a member of a landscaping crew, was pronounced dead at the scene. It remains unknown how the man went through the wood chipper. Police are investigating. Wow, that's a horrible story.
Well, Americans will be celebrating their independence from England on the 4th of July. They'll also be declaring independence from clothing. Inhibitions, not to mention a shirt or skirt or two, will be cast off, as well in celebration of World Naked Day, which falls on the biggest patriotic holiday in the United States. Naturist resorts are offering a variety of sampler packages for the newbie nudists, with many of the resorts suspending any fees to entice the curious to experience relaxing in the buff. Nudist cruises are also in abundance, as many seafaring streakers prefer to keep their exposed bodies limited to a body of water. The tradition begins across the ocean as many Europeans begin soaking up the sun after a long winter. Earlier this year, there was a Scottish weekend, including a Burns in the Buff evening in Dunoon, as well as a Pentaki tournament at a large naturist club in Horfork. Reported by The Guardian.
What is Pentaki? What is that?
I have no clue, but I'm going to look this up.
All right. The next story is from ABC News. More Americans disapprove than approve of Barack Obama's response to the situation in Iraq, even while the public broadly agrees with his decision not to send U.S. combat forces there. The latest ABC News/Washington Post poll marks the difficulties Obama faces in crafting a popular response to the deepening crisis. 2/3 oppose sending ground troops to fight the Sunni insurgents in Iraq, a step the president himself ruled out last week. Regardless, just 42% approve of the way he's handling the situation, while 52% disapprove. The public divides evenly on another potential option, the use of airstrikes.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned Israel's enemies throughout the Middle East yesterday that Israel would strike back if any of them attempted to harm the Jewish state. Speaking at a meeting of his Likud Netanyahu faction in the Knesset, Netanyahu praised the Shin Bet security service, police, and IDF for identifying and apprehending the murderer of Police Deputy Major General Barak Mizrael, whose arrest was revealed yesterday. Netanyahu noted that he had ordered the demolition of the home of Mizraeli's killer, a Hamas operative released in the Gilad Shalit deal. He vowed to take more steps against Hamas, including more arrests and house demolitions, reported by the Jerusalem Post.
And from the Associated Press, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi said this morning he will not interfere in court rulings, rebuffing calls from the United States and other Western governments that he pardon or commute the sentences of 3 Al Jazeera journalists handed heavy prison terms a day earlier. The verdict of 7 years in prison against the journalists brought a landslide of international condemnation. Rights groups described their 5-month trial as a sham, with no evidence presented to back the terrorism-related charges against them, saying the 3 were being punished simply for their reporting on protests by backers of ousted Islamist President Mohamed Morsi. The White House said the ruling flouts the most basic standards of media freedom and was a blow to democratic process. It called on El-Sisi to intervene to bring about the immediate release of the three: Australian Peter Grest, Canadian Egyptian Mohamed Fahmy, and Egyptian Baher Mohammed. Australian and other governments have also urged El-Sisi to do so for the three journalists whose families have said they will appeal. Appeals could take months, and the three are likely to remain in prison during the process.
As Florida temperatures continue to rise, animal services officials across the state of Florida are urging pet owners to never leave animals in hot cars. In Lake County, for example, the Director of Community Safety and Compliance says that even with the window cracked, leaving pets inside a car can be deadly. Cars get hot very quickly, and hot temperatures can lead to severe illness and even death. Officials say it is always better to leave a pet at home in a climate-controlled environment. For example, when it's 72 degrees outside, the temperature inside a car can reach 116 degrees within an hour. When it's 80 degrees outside, the temperature inside a car can heat up to 99 degrees in just 10 minutes. This is according to the Humane Society of the United States. In this event, as others, playing it cautious and safe is the best way to go. That also goes for leaving humans in the car, too. Reported by the Florida News Network.
And the next story is from the Associated Press. Sting may be worth $300 million, but the singer is not planning to leave much of his fortune to his 6 children. He said in the Daily Mail, quote, "I told them there won't be much money left because we are spending it." The Police frontman told the Daily Mail that, adding he has more than 100 people on his payroll. "We have a lot of commitments. What comes in, we spend, and there isn't much left," unquote. More importantly, Sting, who has 3 daughters and 3 sons with his wife Trudy Styler, wants his children to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. "I certainly don't want to leave them trust funds that are an albatross around their necks," he said. The children have to work. All of my kids know that they rarely ask me for anything, which I really respect and appreciate. He added, "Obviously, if they were in trouble, I would help them, but I've never really had to do that. They have the work ethic that makes them want to succeed on their own merit."
A New York court has released the Obama administration's legal justification for the killing of a U.S. citizen and a suspected al-Qaeda leader in Yemen. The previously secret Justice Department memo was published after a lawsuit by the American Civil Liberties Union and the New York Times. Anwar al-Awlaki was killed by a U.S. drone attack in Yemen in 2011. Critics have said al-Awlaki was killed without being given his right to legal due process as an American citizen. The memo argues the killing was legal because he was an operational leader of an enemy force at war with the United States, reported by the BBC.
And from the Associated Press, a debris field at the bottom of Lake Michigan may be the remains of a long-lost griffin, which is a vessel commanded by a 17th century French explorer. This, according to a shipwreck hunter who has sought the wreckage for decades. Steve Liebert told the Associated Press that his crew found the debris this month about 120 feet from the spot where they removed a wooden slab a year ago that was protruding from the lake bottom. Liebert believes that timber was the bowsprit of Rene Robert Cavalier, Sieur de La Salle's ship. Wow, that's a long name. Although scientists who joined the 2013 expedition say the slab more likely was an abandoned fishing net stake. "This is definitely the Griffin. I'm 99.9% sure it is," Liebert said. "This is the real deal." He described the bottom area as littered with wooden planks that could belong to a ship's bow, along with nails and pegs that would have fastened the hull to the rest of the vessel and what appeared to be sections of a mast.
Citizens Property Insurance, the state of Florida's largest insurer, may drop its rates slightly in 2015. That proposal will be discussed by the board and voted up or down during a meeting tomorrow. According to officials with Citizens, the board is considering rate proposals for the next calendar year, which would lower rates for about 70% of the customers who have homeowner policies. The average rate reduction would be about 3.2%. Some customers would not see a rate reduction reduction. Policyholders who live along the coast, for example, would not see their rates decrease. Citizens has raised its rates for the past 4 years, but company officials say they are seeing less of a need to raise those rates for 2015. One reason for keeping rates where they are is the fact that Florida has not had a landfalling hurricane since 2005. This good fortune has given the company a fund surplus. The surplus means the company has a cushion against any surprises this year. Citizens, created as the insurer of last resort in Florida, now has more than 928,000 policyholders. The vote by the board will not be the last word on rates. Florida state regulators have to sign off on any rate reduction that Citizens wants to employ, reported by the Florida News Network.
And from ABC News, Vice President Joe Biden says he understands the financial struggles of working parents with young children because he is, quote, the poorest man in Congress, unquote. Biden, who earns $230,700 in annual salary, made the remarks before attendees at the first ever White House summit on working families in Washington, D.C. The vice president's attempt to highlight his modest upbringing and comparative poverty among high-profile politicians stirred speculation that he may have been deliberately drawing a contrast with former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, who has spoken publicly of her wealth, or rather the lack thereof.
The White House says the removal of chemical weapons from Syria will ensure they'll never be used against the Syrian people, Americans, or U.S. partners around the world. White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest is applauding the international coalition that yesterday completed what he called an extraordinary mission. But he also says the world will not forget those who died in chemical attacks in Syria. Earnest says in addition to more than 1,000 tons of chemical materials, officials have verified that Syria's chemical production, mixing, and filling equipment has been destroyed. He says all delivery vehicles for the weapons, like missiles and bombs, have also been destroyed, reported by the Las Vegas Sun.
And from CNN, a Sudanese woman whose death sentence for refusing to renounce her Christian faith was revoked has been rearrested, according to her legal team in a statement issued to CNN this morning. 27-year-old Miriam Ibrahim and her husband Daniel Wani were arrested this morning at an airport in Sudan's capital as they were trying to leave the African country. This, according to the legal team. Details about why the couple were arrested were not immediately available. 27-year-old Ibrahim was convicted in May by a Sudanese court on charges of apostasy, or the renunciation of faith, and adultery, charges that led to international controversy. Ibrahim was 8 months pregnant when she was sentenced to suffer 100 lashes and then be hanged. But an appeals court in Sudan this month ruled that a lower court's judgment against her was faulty, and she was released, according to her lawyer, but now has been rearrested along with her husband.
A U.S. judge has granted a House of Representatives panel and one of its staffers more time to prepare for a court battle over whether they must comply with a federal regulator's subpoenas tied to an insider trading probe. The order, made public yesterday by U.S. District Judge Paul Gardeffi in Manhattan, gives the House and Ways and Means Committee and its Healthcare Subcommittee Staff Director Brian Sutter until July 4th to respond to the Securities and Exchange Commission's demands for records, reported by Reuters.
And actor George Clooney and his fiancée Amal Alamuddin have been spending time near his home in Lake Como, Italy, and for a while they had some company, her mother. And by all accounts, things have been going pretty well. They were outside, and Amal and her mom were smiling. A source told People magazine it was going pretty great. According to the magazine, 53-year-old George Clooney and 36-year-old Alamuddin have squeezed in some alone time, too. Now, how is that news?
I know.
How is that
They're
news?
famous.
All right. We've got to move forward. That's all the time we have for NewsBites. Remember, we do this each weekday. It gives you a chance to catch up on the news in a short period of time. Usually, we get between 20 and 25 stories squeezed in. How many today, Robin?
23.
All right, right on target.
And a couple long ones.
Right on target. And a couple long ones. All right, Carol Ann Baldwin is next. She's going to answer my banana tree questions.
Yay!
And your questions as well, right here on The Source, WOCA. This is WOCA Ocala, The Source.
News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. In Miami early today, ambulances responding to a shooting in the Liberty City area. 2 people were killed, several wounded. Police say it happened outside an apartment complex. No arrests have been made and no word of a possible motive. Secretary of State John Kerry, who's pushing for Iraq to form a more broad-based government, meeting with the Kurdish president.
John Kerry met with Masoud Barzani, president of the Kurdistan Regional Government, 10 days after Kurdish Peshmerga forces, responding to the capture of major Iraqi cities by Sunni insurgents, themselves seized control of Kirkuk, the strategically important oil hub that the Kurds have long regarded as their historic capital.
Fox's James Rosen. 7 states are holding primaries today. Colorado and Maryland will pick candidates for governor. Republicans in Oklahoma will choose a nominee who will be favored to replace retiring Senator Tom Coburn. Fox News. We report, you decide.
Policies issued by American General Life Insurance Company, Houston, Texas. Not available in all states. For details, visit AIGdirect.com.
On March 3rd last year, Henry W. faced his own death with incredible courage. He wasn't in an accident. He wasn't ill. He wasn't in any danger. But he faced this reality head on. If he died, his wife and children wouldn't be able to pay the mortgage, make the car payments, or keep up the life they'd had. His family would lose everything. So he picked up the phone and called AIG Direct. He found out that through AIG Direct, he could get a $250,000 life insurance policy for less than $14 a month. Now, he knows that he's helped make his family's future secure, no matter what happens to him.
Protecting your family with coverage through AIG Direct is fast, easy, and incredibly affordable. Call AIG Direct right now for a free no-obligation quote. The call takes less than 5 minutes, and you can save up to 70%. Call now.
1-800-322-9891. That's 1-800-322-9891. 1-800-322-9891.
Hey, Matt, I know Sunrise Automotive does auto stuff, but I need some tires for my truck. Can you recommend someone?
Yes, I can. We do that.
No, I mean, I need them installed and balanced and all that.
Yep, we do that.
Well, my son needed his windows tinted.
Yep, we do that.
I need my seat replaced.
Yep, we do that too.
I need a new roof line, and a new spoiler, and a new trunk.
We can even do that too.
Okay, I get it. I suppose you can also do a radio show too, huh?
Well, as a matter of fact, join me every Monday at 10 for auto repair with personal care here